Okay, welcome everybody. It's Christina Merkley and it is October 7th. I'm bad with dates, so I think I got that one right. This is the 21st process group that I've run since March, and with the pandemic kind of sweeping into North America. So a couple of you here have, Jude's been attending all the way along. So amazing to have you here. Thank you. Our seasoned anchor, so to speak, and anchoring us through this. And it's a drop-in, so it ebbs and flows all the time. And I know we have some new faces here. Welcome, LB. Nice to have you here. Good, another Californian dropping in. I'm Christina Merkley. I'm a seasoned visual practitioner. I've been around for a couple decades with this work and been through all the different, I call them animals. So working with groups, working with individuals. This is a working with individuals, even though we're doing it in a group. This is a way of applying the visual skills to process work with individuals. I'm the Shifted coach, so I have a slew of visual tools that I've developed over the years. I'll speak about those things further on if people are interested in learning where to go for them. But let me flash on the screen just an orientation to what we do in here real quick, just to orient those of you who are new. And screen shares up, so you should be seeing what is a meeting startup chart. And this is a free process group. Let's take a look at the desired outcomes. So this is providing support. These are transformative times. Many of the people that I attract are process professionals of various types, meaning that they hold space for different kinds of people, right? So you may be a facilitator, a coach, a leader. Given I work visually, I attract a lot of people who are scribes, recorders, etc. So this is support during these transformative times. You come as you are, is inner work assistance. It's an ongoing drop-in community. This is about personal growth. Since so many of us hold space for others, this is a place for me to hold the space for you and to assist what's ever up at this moment. It's emergent, so that means every time it's different. This one will be different from all the other 21 other ones that I've ran. It's emergent, it's co-created, it's different every time. You signed up on a page which is called the process groups page on my website, and you may or may not have noticed that there's some shared visual tools on that site. So I have over 40 tools that I've constructed. I do a bunch of other things as well, but they help me lead through different kinds of processes depending on who I'm working with. So I cherry picked out a handful of tools that I thought were going to be most relevant for what 2020 is given all of us. And so those tools I usually don't share, especially for free. My tools, you go through a certification for them, but I put a selection of those tools up on that process page to assist individuals. So know that I may use some of those tools that are up on that page. And depending on what shows itself, I probably won't be able to work with everybody if everybody has things that they want to focus on. But I may direct you to some of those other tools where you can do your own kind of side work, right? To work on whatever is coming up for you. In terms of roles, you are all co-creators in this. This is emergent design, so I work with you. And we build it each time anew. We're also, this is very holistic. I attract very smart left-brain people. And I also am very right-brained, and so are all of you. And often under stress, people's left brains go a little cuckoo. So a lot of what happens in this is balancing out head, heart, and gut, and really getting you more aligned with all the aspects of yourself, which does a lot to soothe your nervous system and give your poor, sweet brain a break, because it often is working overtime, right? Trying to figure things out. And what we're in the midst of in the world is not just figure outable by head. It's also our guts and hearts got to get in there as well. Individually and collectively, right? To shift this stuff we got going on. Welcome, Susan. I'm just doing the meeting startup. I am the host. I am also a human being in process. So know that. Facilitator, visual coach, also I take a non-dual or oneness perspective. I'm in the midst, have been for 10 years in a Kundalini awakening. So there's a lot that's going on for me with consciousness. And that's what has been prompting me to step by step move from more of the left brain work with the visuals more into the right brain and balancing this stuff out. Also have a lot of empathic and mediumship skills, and sometimes the other side pops up in here in interesting ways. Meeting norms. Let me get this out of the way so we can see this a bit better. How to be here, inhabit your own experience. I'm going to ask you to use I statements, and if you naturally slip into you or just general kind of statements, you may hear me popping up saying, I, can you put that into I language, right? It'll just help people be able to hear it and respond to it in a more settled way. There may be critiquey stuff going on. We have in our conditioning different aspects of our personality that come up that may judge me, may judge different people in the group or whatever. But I would just invite you to try as much as possible to, if you're going to do any critiquing or judging, just of concepts and not of people here. This is a vulnerable, sweet container, as are everybody who's coming here. And it's tough times in the world for a lot of us, right? So my intention is to create a safe, supportive place for people to be genuine and true in who they are. This is recorded, as I mentioned. Sometimes, not always, I may flash up onto the screen the emotional scale, which means when you run groups, people are going to be inhabiting lots of different places emotionally. And probably throughout the day or throughout these months, right, you've ping-ponged around lots of different kinds of emotions. You may have multiple ones going on. So that's a lot of what we're working with here. If you are in a more traumatic place, the whole intent here is to move you to a more generative place. That's what my shifted work is about, and the tools that we use here is really help them work with the new nervous system, with your mind and your wonderful brains and your hearts and guts, right? To really move you to a more stabilized place. My word for that is the generative field. Now, some of my work, and this goes into the conditioning and stuff that can be happening when we are getting upset, understandably, about things. Sometimes we bump into parts of ourselves that carry these different upsets. My word for that is orphans. And often they are connected to earlier parts in our lives. It could be child, it could be teen, could be adult, it could be last week. And sometimes with the orphans, with those vulnerable parts of ourselves, come bodyguards. And sometimes we get duking out of the bodyguards, right? When we get triggered in the world, our instant responses can come up. And bodyguards can be defensive and angry, and sometimes they can be freezing and checking out and numb and these various things. So we may or may not go there today, but this is just giving you a broad kind of range of the things that we cover and some of the language. Those of you who've been here and around me are well versed in this stuff. And those of you who are new, welcome, welcome. And you're probably entering into some terrain with the visuals maybe you haven't encountered before. So this is kind of the leading edge of where I'm taking this work. Okay, that gives us a quick look there. Maybe I will flash up the vibrational scale. Emotional scale. Okay. The source for this, there's lots of different emotional scales out there in the world, particularly in therapy and counseling. This particular one comes from the Abraham Hicks material. I've lost my brush. Where is my brush palette? There it is. Good. And it's just a very, don't worry about the words. You might use different words or feel things slightly differently. It's not about perfection around the world and words and everybody calibrating to this. It's just a general sense of this scale. At the very bottom is the deepest ones on the human experience, and fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. You move up a little bit and you get into good old insecurity and guilt and unworthiness. Move up to that, and we're going into jealousy. Move up from there, and this is interesting, right? We see a lot of some of this going on in our world with anger, revenge, hatred, and rage. That's actually a step up from the stuff lower down that you turn in on yourself. When you start turning it out on other people, that's actually progression. Doesn't feel good often for the other people, right? And we don't always want to stay there as individuals and as a collective. It has its place and role in this whole scale. We move up and it starts to soften into blame and worry and doubt, discouragement, disappointment, softens a little bit more to overwhelm, frustration, irritation, impatience. So as I'm laying these out, just kind of think about where you are at this particular moment, depending on different subjects, work, your personal life, the world at large, right? You might calibrate in different ways to different terms here. Then we keep on moving up and we move into pessimism. See, actually that's pretty high. Boredom is actually quite a high state. Contentment, hopeful. This is a big one. This is called crossing the hope line here. If you remember back in the day with Obama with the Hope campaign. And then we move into the upper ones with everybody thinks that wouldn't it be nice if we just lived our lives always here? But we live in a dual plane, right? We don't, but we can get lots of this good stuff here in life, which is optimism, positive expectation and belief, enthusiasm, eagerness, happiness, passion, and at the tippy top, joy, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation. You'll notice down here, there's bodyguards and orphans that we're talking about. They tend to hang out down here, right? In this kind of zone of the scale. Well, over on this side is just the concept of when you've got the scale, depending on what's going on, how you're focusing, how you're working with your shtick, you can be moving up. So reaching for a progressively better state. You don't take quantum leaps. That's usually pretty impossible or hard on the system, but you do incrementally, you can move yourself up. And that's what I'm doing in this work, is helping people move up using the various tools that I use. Of course, what goes up can go down. Usually people show up to a process group or coaching when they're in a downward spiral, or they're in an upward spiral and just kind of want to, you know, keep moving on the things that they want to be having happening in the world. Just a note here about this tippy top. It's interesting in the world with what's going on because we can be across the whole scale of things. People who are quite high on the vibrational scale right now in the world often will be experiencing guilt to some extent or other. I've seen that pop up because other people in the world aren't, right? And there's a lot of stuff going on. And if you're thankfully in a place where you're quite stable and emotionally content, yay, somebody's got to hold that space in the world. So I'm glad you are. But that can be an interesting place to be in because you have to sometimes resolve where the rest of the collective is, or even people who are very close to you and where they are. So we can work with guilt too, is an interesting thing. I think I'll leave it there for now, and I'll just do some check-ins and see what's emergent in the space. And then depending on what's here, we just kind of work with the agenda, and I will pull out tools or I work from blank paper, digital paper here, and just see what happens. Every time something amazing kind of emerges and we work with it and we do something over this space of the time. So let's find out what today's going to bring and what's up. The check-in is name and geography. And then if you are bringing anything to our coffee table, so to speak, what are you putting onto the coffee table in terms of a focus area? So if you have an agenda item, if you have something going on that you want some support on, let me know and I'll take a list, and then I'll just use my intuition of what to cover and in what order to cover. I will also, midway through somewhere here, flash other opportunities. I may not get to everybody, so keep coming, because if I see you keep coming, I'm eventually going to be able to slip you in here if I don't get to you today. The other thing is that I'm also doing free recorded sessions, and over on my YouTube channel, you may have seen those as well. And I post them on social media. They're on the Facebook group for the graphic facilitators as well. So know that's another option as well. Some of you in this group have already done that with me. And it's a generous act to do your own personal processing like we are here for other people to witness, because they can parallel process along and get good inner work done from the work that you're doing as well. So you can find that on my site. I'll let you know where the links are. Pat, if you're interested, you could post that into the chat, that link for the free recorded session. So if I don't get to you, know there's other opportunities. I also am doing paid private coaching too, of course. So if you want to have some private time with me, that's certainly available. Okay, so let's shift to intros. Let's just do popcorn style. So unmute yourself, and whoever feels called to. Probably anybody who's been here, you know how to do it. So go ahead and demo and model it, and then we'll get everybody checked in. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Peggy from Victoria, and I guess I'm coming because I'm at a point of kind of discontentment in what's going on. I just feel like COVID's going on way too long.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, Peggy. Good. Discontentment. I'm sure we can a lot get dual parallel work out of that. Okay. Thanks.
My name is Wendi. I'm in Texas in the United States. And so yesterday I found out that I work for a nonprofit. I hadn't been paid for a while. Yesterday I found out it's official that my job has been ended, along with like 5 of my colleagues, which is half of our organization. So I knew that I was going to be leaving, but I wasn't planning on leaving yesterday.
Wow.
So I'm still kind of figuring that out.
Yeah, probably in shock. Yeah. Okay, Wendi, thank you for letting me know. Who's next?
I can go next. Okay, go ahead, Susan.
So I'm Susan. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm just here for support. Sometimes you come because you need it, and sometimes someone needs you. So I wouldn't say I'm at the top of the heap there with joy and passion, but I'm not in tears today, so that's a good thing. Yeah, actually, Christina, it was interesting. You did all the emotion. They look like tornadoes to me, but that's not very good. Because
I think that's a good analogy. It can feel like that, right? Upwards and downwards tornadoes. Yeah.
But I saw something yesterday and then I couldn't find it again. And it was like when you say, oh, I feel sad, but actually there's other things you probably feel. Like, or if you say I'm angry, but really there's other emotions that really that's what you are. And I couldn't find it again, but I thought it was really useful because it's so easy to just go, oh, that makes me so mad. But then you don't think why.
Yeah, and often there's with emotions, it's called primary and secondary. So we kind of have our presenting emotion, but what's really underneath it can be something different.
Well, that was really eye-opening, I thought.
Yeah. Thanks, Susan. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jude, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I've been feeling some deep sadness and grief the last couple days. And I didn't really realize why until a little while ago. I was walking through my neighborhood, and a lot of the businesses were starting to put plywood over their windows, and there were a lot of people in the street writing with chalk on the street. And the Wisconsin National Guard was called into service because there was a police shooting in February where a 17-year-old African-American was killed outside of a shopping mall. And the district attorney is supposed to announce any minute whether the police officer is being charged or not. And it's his third officer involved shooting in 5 years where he killed people. And in this situation, the police officer and the 17-year-old were both Black. And where I live, there's been this
Very close
bubbling
to
up
Kenosha.
of the, right, 30 miles from Kenosha, where many people heard about the police shooting a few weeks ago. So it's like people are fed up and protesting, and also we've had a tremendous resurgence in COVID, and also an increasing death rate from COVID. So there's this, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, you know, my life is going pretty well. I'm recently retired, and, you know, I'm just kind of getting into that, resting, and the weather's beautiful and my life is good. But in the field around me, there's this, you know, that, and everybody is experiencing this, right? So that tension between things going well, I don't feel guilty that things are going well in my life, but there's just this overwhelming sadness when I'm walking around the neighborhood and seeing others who are dealing with so much sadness themselves. And then tonight there's this debate on TV, you know, the vice presidential debate, and it's like, so we have this election that's a couple weeks away, and, you know, so that's just another layer of how much worse can, you know, this situation here in the US get. So that's a long-winded, and I don't really know if I want to process any of that. So I'm here too to support and just, but be in the field of people who are trying to heal and raise our consciousness.
Well, and I'm glad you voiced it. And there was a lot that you needed to touch on and give voice to and speak to. So you brought it into our field and circle. Thank you, Jude. I'm just feeling the energy, and I'm a tapper. I do tapping. There's different types of tapping. So this is just a first, this is a very basic way of doing it. And it's, if nobody's done tapping before, it's a quick entry into it. Tapping works on the neural connections in your body and the different meridians. And remember at the beginning, I was talking about head, heart, and gut. And so a quick way to do is to tap. You don't have to if you don't care to, but those who do, this can be a way to just meet when you're hitting different emotions that are in the field and that are showing up in our circle here. One way to meet them and even participate in helping them process and flow a little is to do a little tapping. Usually you cup the hand and you can tap the head. The cupping is so you get the left and the right. The heart, and this is going to depend on your own pace, right? You can thump it. You can use your fingertips, or you can just hold it, right? Just nice and gentle and tender, even two hands. And then the gut, which is really the processing and the root and the grounding, is the same thing, right? You can tap there, hold it, just lightly tap. And so as I work with people, and even as we're doing the check-ins, right, if your emotional system is responding and it feels comfortable for you to do this, tapping can be one way to participate and just help your poor nervous system, you know, deal with the stuff that's emerging. Okay. Anybody else? Who else wants to get in here and let us know who you are and what's up?
Hi,
Lisa.
this is Lisa.
How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm up in Northern California, and I'm at a home sit with ponies and goats and chickens, and I just made a big charred garden pie, and two of the hunkiest geologists just came up to the house to do some work, and I'm like, you guys need some pie. So I'm just chuckling because it was fun to connect with the world. And I've got, I'm here today. I just love being here, and I didn't come to process anything. I do have something going on that's, I've just been dealing with the carjacking and the PTSD kind of still living in a survival mode and really feeling like I'm not improving. And my trauma MD, I just kind of gave it to him yesterday. Like, I don't really think this is actually progressing. And so we had a really good talk. And I think what's going on is there's a pre-trial on October 14th, and I feel an immense amount of responsibility for the life of this 18-year-old who carjacked me. And I am not turning in my restitution work. I'm not turning in a letter to the DA. I can't write it. And every time I try to do it, I just freak out. And I've had like a lot of learning disabilities where I can't even figure out basic computer stuff. And so I'm on a new computer. So I just feel really overwhelmed. And I feel like the world, so many things are going on that problem is so not important. And so I feel like poor me, you know. So that's just what's happening with me right now. And I just happy to be here. And whatever we do, I will definitely be able to parallel process.
Okay, hon. Good. I'm glad you're here. And I hope we will be able to do some work with you. So good.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. So my name is Chow, and I'm calling from San Diego, California. My life is actually full of peace and joy and excitement. I have a coaching company to help young professionals. I've always had this vision, but it's not clear. In the recent year, it's become so clear. Your vision, and now I finally know what to do and how to do it, but it's a massive long-term journey. So I guess where I'm coming from, state of mind right now, I'm filled with hope and full of ideas, but then it's also ideas fighting each other, you know, ideas, it's almost like a room that's too crowded with people, good people I love, but they're crowded and they're fighting to get out, and I don't know which one to let out first and how to, you know, just manage this process. So I guess that's what I really want to process.
Cool. Alrighty, that's juicy. Lots of incredible stuff showing up today. Thank you.
All right, I'll go next. I'm Cara. I'm from Burbank, California, though I grew up in Wisconsin, and I hear what you're saying, Jude. My family is all there, and they're all looking at, what do you mean we have more than one case of COVID? What? That's a new and different thing for them. But I'm kind of like Chow in this regard. Like Christina, I remember very clearly when we first met in person, there was some pretty, like I was down at the negative end of that tornado.
Yep.
And I have to say that, like Chow, I feel like I'm kind of reflecting on that spectrum going, wait a second, I'm way up at the top. That's kind of cool. And is that okay? And also get the sense that,
yes, it's okay.
Generally speaking, it feels like I and everybody I know is just treading water. We're just waiting.
Aren't we? Yeah.
Waiting, trying to get an answer, a solution, and the election being one particular moment in time that I think a lot of us still have hope, but at the same time we're all cautious because we had hope in 2016 and look how that and so we're thinking, okay, if something shifts, then actually get some leadership, if we get a solution to what's all going on, big picture, will that, you know, when will the actual impact of that be felt? When Wendi was saying, you know, you recently found out about your job. I work in human resources, and earlier this spring, I was the one person, you know, I was the one laying people off, and some of that survivor guilt really kind of stays with you. I mean, I've been laid off. I know what that's like personally, and that is horrific. It's a sucker punch. It is something that can really derail your sense of self. So I know what that feels like, but then having to deliver all of that on a massive scale was absolutely awful. And I didn't really have an appreciation for that before this. And even now, it just seems like there's a lot of times when you lay somebody off, you're like, okay, they can totally get a job, they can spin it, they can, you know, move on with their lives. It's not going to be this long-term thing. And now it just feels like, what are the prospects? And I don't know how to counsel somebody and people who are in that situation now, besides to say, I've been through it, not at a difficult time like this, but it's rough no matter what. So the other thing that I wanted to just bring up is just, I have kids age 8 and 11. My 11-year-old's great. She's loving distance learning, never having to, you know, get out of pajamas. It's wonderful. But my 8-year-old, who is social by nature, and she said this heartbreaking thing to me the other day. She said, I really miss the sound of paper moving and not being muted all the time.
Wow.
And that just kills me, because I just worry about, how is this situation, this circumstance affecting the long-term health and well-being of the generation that is seeing this as reality, as normal? Like, they're normalizing this. I, as a parent, support that. On the flip side, my husband's a rabbi, and so he is having to do all of his ministering virtually. And that's the difficulty there too, because how do you support a community? How do you, is built on in-person events and communication and feeling people around you. And I think we're all kind of adjusting, but realizing that it's a 25% solution. It's possible to do this stuff virtually, but it's definitely not easy. It's not preferable. It's not comfortable. But we can still move the needle a little bit. It's just, we're all waiting for the time where we can go back to something that resembles what we had as normal. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but those are the big ideas that I'm thinking about. And professionally, like, it's turned around, Christina. Like, I can't tell you, I'm in a great place career-wise. I'm with a wonderful team, with a great company that actually appreciates me as a human and as a professional. And I'm working from home constantly, which is actually working out really well. So, wow.
So full, right? Across the whole spectrum too. Yeah. Aw. It's really nice to see you. Yeah.
Me too.
Sabina, you don't have to, and Pat hasn't gone either, but if either of you do care to check in.
Okay, I will be short.
Sure.
I'm Sabina from Slovenia. Yeah, maybe for me now, I'm in a phase of letting go some relationships which are quite damaging for me. So
Well, good. Good you're letting
one
go.
of the things I need to process.
Okay, and that's, you're interested in processing for that. Okay. Thank you. Pat, do you want to say anything? You don't have to flick your video. Pat's my assistant, and she's also coming here for her. So, I don't know if you're there or not. Maybe you might have stepped away. Okay. Okay.
Christina, she put in the chat a little while ago that she had
you.
to take a phone call.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't looked at chat, so thanks for letting me know. Oh, so much to work with. Wendi, I want to go with you first if you're open for it. And I think it's inquiry. So inquiry, for those who haven't been in one of these, is a way of interacting with our consciousness. Because in these kinds of situations, I find that I want to go to your wisdom and your consciousness ASAP. There's multiple ways to do that, but inquiry is at least a starting place. I'm also feeling future self for you. So we'll see how this dovetails in, because future self is also going to be a great one to be able to guide and assist. She's been through this and she got through it, just like Kara's talking about previous situations in her life, right? So there's a life after it, although it's bumpy when you're in it. Okay, so I'm going to screen share and just bring up some blank paper. Hide this one away. And are you all right with this, doing that process?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, when I work with Wendi, each of you are going to interact with this work in different ways. Some of you may be tracking along. You may have things in your past. You may have other people in your life who might have something similar. It may stir up something related so that you'll get good value out of it because it will connect in with something specific going on for you or that you relate to. Others of you, it may not. And if you're a process professional, it'll just be interesting to see what we're doing together, right? And what's happening here process-wise. Also, this is a very internal process. So while you're watching me work with Wendi or anybody I'm doing inquiry with, from the outside, it looks and appears different from the inside. So I'm going to be inviting her to interact with her consciousness in different ways. Sometimes that's really somatic and there's feelings and sensations and stuff going on with Wendi or whoever's doing this process, right? So just know, and those of you who are really empathic, you'll be able to feel that and sense that as it's going along. But those who are kind of new to that, you might kind of be a little perplexed about what's going on. So just do your best to hang with the perplexedness, right? And see what happens as we go along. Okay, Wendi. First off, I just want to tap. So kind of to help shift and bless and let go of what everybody just brought forward here. And as we kind of make a segue here to the next segment of what we're doing here, just to provide a little bit of space. Also, I just feel for you, you were in the certification course yesterday. So I heard, you know, in your check-in here, so I know this has been going on and I'm really glad we get to have some support here for you and some space for you. So that's what's also going on with the tapping. I just really feel my heart and tenderness and concern and care for you. Not concern, but care, because I know you're capable and resourceful and whole. So with inquiry, you just settle into your own system and just focus on what's there, what's most present, right? With different kinds of coaching, sometimes we'll bop ourselves into the past or into the future, but with inquiry, we're just being in the now. We're meeting what's here. So what is most present? What comes up for you? Anything is fair game.
So it's interesting that you mentioned somatic, because that's really like, I have no emotions to attach to what's going on. It's all just body stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like right now, I feel kind of like at the base of my rib cage, which is a little higher than my gut. Things are kind of just like, stuck isn't the right word, but immoved. Like they're just like, like I don't know what Kara was saying, but like that waiting, you know, there's this waiting for something to drop, waiting for something. And we had, so when I said yesterday, I really do mean literally, I got the phone call yesterday. Yeah. That the organization is reconfiguring themselves to just be volunteers and a couple of select locations that are self-sustaining, and the rest of us are done. And so we had a meeting today, which is like a regular weekly meeting. We're spread out geographically, and I was so angry at the meeting. I had to leave. I left the Zoom, and I never do that. Like, that's not me, you know. Like,
mm-hmm.
I turned off my Zoom. I went for a walk because like I was physically shaking. I was so angry at the leadership of the organization, because it's supposed to be, it's a spiritual organization. It's a alternative community organization. Like the whole premise is that we do things differently than the world does them. And I was like, we're supposed to be so good at ending things well. And this meeting feels like you're just pretending nothing happened and moving right along. Mm. Like we can just pretend there's nothing. I mean, it was very nice. Like there was some little speech about, you know, blowing dandelion seeds out to the wind, and all of you are always welcome to come to this weekly meeting where we check in with each other. And I'm like, I just couldn't take it. I said, this feels so disingenuous to me. Like, I know the people who are in charge, they care. I absolutely know that they care. But I was like, we need a goodbye. We need closure. We need something, you know? So I was just so angry. I was shaking. And that was unpleasant.
Of course. Just getting this down, we're going to come back and we're going to meet it, but I just really want to get the language as you're expressing it. Where's the goodbye? Where's the closure? And obviously unpleasant. Okay. Okay, so just breathing and just, when I say bowing, it just means respecting. So we're just, and you can find your own movement there. It doesn't literally have to be a bow. It can be a just looking at it, a nod to it, acknowledgement. But this whole thing that just came out here, we're just, hello, you're here, right? Hello to the rib cage feeling into the somatic. Hello to the angry and getting off that call and just being shaking. And the disgust at the leadership. They're supposed to be spiritual in the community, and this is really what they're going to do. They're just going to use the analogy of the dandelion blowing to the wind, and that's it. No closure. Where's the goodbye? And that being understandably very unpleasant. So just breathing, and this might be a stretch to say to it, you are welcome here, but try it to the extent that it is possible to just greet it and welcome it. And then we're going to agree with it all, right? Agree with whatever this is, right? It doesn't have to be a head thing. So I love that you're getting somatic. So agreeing with the rib cage and just agree with it. You're right. You're right. We don't like this. And then agreeing with the shaking, that anger, that's an authentic no. Damn right, I don't like that. That's an authentic no showing up. So just acknowledging you're right. We really don't like this. And the unpleasant, however that shows up, agree with it. You're right, you're right. Not cool, no, no, no. And damn right about where's the goodbye and where's the closure. Just see what happens. Nothing has to happen, but as you, I'm just holding the space and suggesting different things to try. See what happens as you're meeting all of that and you're agreeing with it. That which we resist persists, that which we hate hates us back, right? So we're not resisting, we're not hating this. This is totally valid. Your responses and your reactions are totally valid here. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, see what unfolds from here.
I feel appreciation, like when you said that's an authentic no, referring to the shaking, that resonated very well with me. I was thankful and appreciative.
The recognition of that.
Because authenticity is a big thing for me.
Yep.
As a trigger and also as a personal aspiration.
Okay, so now we're going to agree with that. You're right. You're right. We like authenticity. This is the other side kind of showing up, right? So we're just kind of agreeing with it. You're right. Hello, authenticity. Damn right. We like authenticity. And that's why the no, the authentic no, was so powerful, because that's being authentic. It's not being fake and covering it up. Now just see what unfolds as you meet authenticity.
Yeah, that was interesting, because the thing I didn't name before that was that when you were naming the shaking part of it, like I could feel some of that again, like an echo, not as strong, but like, you know, like a remembrance. And my heart was beating very hard. And then when you said what you did just now, my heart felt hope rather than the thumping.
Okay, good. So we're just going to welcome hope. Hello, hope. Isn't that so beautiful? So quickly, hope is there for you. How lovely. Hello, hope. Just meeting it. Doesn't have to do anything. There's no should or must or anything. It's just this beautiful tenderness has emerged as you met the other things. There's hope. Wow.
Yeah. And
The
that,
resilience of the human spirit, boy.
so that pops up a little feeler of fear. Like, is it okay to hope? Are you, I don't want to be disappointed again.
Good, good, good. Yes. So just meet that hello fear and that disappointment. Don't want to be disappointed again. Just agree with it. Absolutely right. You're right. We don't want to be disappointed. Good idea. And this is a coping mechanism, right? Fear and doubt and wanting to avoid the disappointment. Just agree with it. You're right. Thank you for looking out for me. Underneath it is love. This is so much the heart is already showing up here. So it's like, this is just worried love, right? It's just protecting you. It's like, we don't want to be disappointed. So just agree with it and thank it for its love. Thank it for loving you and scanning and watching and wanting to keep you safe.
Yeah. And that makes me relaxed enough to feel how tired I am.
Okay. Okay. So hello, tiredness. You're right. We are tired. Yeah, all this has been holding and taking a tremendous amount of energy in your system. And once you meet it and that starts to shift on you, now you can really feel your tiredness. So just welcome it. You're welcome here. Yes, yes, yes. You've worked so hard. Thank you, thank you. All that tension, all that body stuff, all that wanting to search and figure out the solution and avoid disappointment. Oh, just feel that tiredness and welcome it. Yes, 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 you're right. We're tired. It's okay to be tired.
Yeah. So
go ahead, go with what comes. Yeah.
what's at the front of my mind at this moment, you had posted in the visual coaching certification class today about William, what was his last name? Bridges?
Yes. Transitions.
So I read the bio page on him, and it was so interesting when I got to the part where he was talking about the American culture, like going from one thing that's ending and jumping straight into the next thing that's beginning without that space in the middle, that liminal. He didn't use the word liminal, but I will.
Yeah. Yes.
Space in the middle. And that was just really synchronistic because I was having a conversation. There's a trio of us that have been talking about forming a partnership when we knew this organization was going to, whatever. And we had 2 out of the 3 of us were talking about really needing that space before we launched this new thing to like just breathe for a little while. And so honoring the tired feels really important to me.
Beautiful. And so that took you to ding, 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 to Bill Bridges' work and that model. Excellent. And to liminal space. So we're just going to meet yes, 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 to knowledge about transitions and the US culture's tendency to just plow through, kind of grind culture, right? Don't take any break. And you going, no, liminal. And as he points out, liminal space, the neutral zone, time to be, yes, yes, yes. And then you went to the brilliance of your consciousness. Oh, there's a trio here. There's a potential partnership. And all of you, thankfully, are agreeing on liminal space. Yes, yes, yes. So just bow to it, how wise it is. Agree with it. You're right. We like liminal space. We like rest. We like being different than the mainstream culture and its drives. Yes, yes, yes. And thankfully, my trio here who's exploring this stuff, who was even before the firing or whatever one terms it is called, you guys were already kind of sniffing around this. So just a bow to that, a bow to the trio, a bow to the knowledge and wisdom about liminal space. Yes, please. Good idea. Yes, yes, yes. And no, no, no to this over here, this typical way of being. And I will do a deep bow. One of my early teachers, Bill Bridges, who's passed. Thank you, Bill. You can feel him right there. Good. Your work carries on, sir. Good work. And then where do we go? Where do you go? What unfolds? Just take your time. There's no rush. Nothing needs to. But if something arises, what arises from here?
Well, there's some uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
There certainly is.
for me, like financially, I'm going to be okay. I have some resources. That's like I'm not concerned short term, you know, about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess then I'm like,
Just yes, yes, yes to that, right? Because it could be different. So how nice is that? Yes, yes, yes. You're right. Good thing. We like that. Resources, okay in the short term. Good, good, good.
yeah. And I have had some future self conversations about this actually. And what my future self had told me was like, just be in the now. You know, like you don't have to plan out the next 10 years of your life. Just do what you need to do now. Which I thought was really helpful, but it's really hard for me because I'm a planner.
Yes. Yeah. That's that left brain that I was leading with. So let's just, first off, hello, future self. You are welcome here. Yes, yes, yes to the conversations we've been having. Yes, yes, yes to your wisdom. How wise, being in the now. And yes, yes, yes to being in the now is difficult, right? Because the mind and that left brain and that strategic side, I got it too. I attract a lot of us do strat planning and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's particularly challenging for us. This being in the now stuff is hard. So just agree with mind. Hello, mind. Thank you for your take on things, all the strat planning. I need a plan. I need a plan. You're right from your perspective. And being in the now is also emerging here. It's a yes and, not an either or.
Yeah, because I was trying to guess with that trio, like, what are we going to do when that guy's wife gets pregnant and he was going to leave, you know, which is what well, then you'll deal with that when it comes, you know.
So just a big bow. Yeah. So left brain, right? The mind here, this is what minds do. So thank it, right? Like you're on it. Thanks, mind. You are just like doing scenarios and you're trying to figure stuff out. So thanks, mind. I'm glad you exist. Not really appropriate right now because we don't know what we're dealing with, but I'm glad you're on the job because you do have that ability. However, the other side here, the other part of you can call it various things, the heart, the spirit, right? Consciousness is saying, we'll figure that out. We're capable. We can just wait when it actually emerges instead of worrying, because the mind's doing its worried love thing. It's trying to keep you safe. It's trying to know everything ahead of time. And we just can't. This is uncertainty. So just agree with it and thank it. And then agree with the other side who's saying, it'll appear. Right? You'll deal with it when it appears. And just see what happens. Yes, and they're both right. They both work in a partnership together. Mine might need a little bit of a break because mine's kind of spinning its wheels. It's great when it drops and it actually has information to work with, but until that happens, right, it's just kind of getting steamy machinery, right, because it's smoking because it doesn't really have stuff to compute yet. That was interesting sound that just happened. Yeah.
Oh, teenagers.
Yeah, it kind of fit with the brain going, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that's a place that I want to be. Like I said, it's sort of aspirational, the being in the now, like it sounds really good. And maybe this is my mind getting in the way again.
It's okay. It's mine. Your mind's objecting. So mine's like, oh, wait a second. We're not so sure about this in the now. So just hear what mind says. What's mind's objection? What's its yeah, but?
That, so like, I don't know whether it's I don't know what to call it, but when I was first doing coaching training, the leader had said that if you, like the difference between wishful thinking and actual planning, like you get the same shot of dopamine when you imagine that you're doing something as you do when you're actually doing it. And so it can like stop you from actually doing something because you feel just as good thinking about it as you would, you know, actually doing it. So that's what my mind is like.
Okay, so mind's
also, like,
mind's given us that dopamine story. So
yeah.
from that article. So thank it. Thanks. That's interesting, mind. Interesting tidbit of information. Good.
Well,
Thank
there's
you.
an accusation in there too. Like the mind says that's all you're doing is making yourself feel better.
Okay, good. You are just making yourself feel better. Ooh, like that's such a bad thing. It's kind of the trick to everything. You are just making yourself feel better. Okay.
In the world of my psyche, that is a bad thing.
Okay.
So,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, good. So agree with it from its perspective. That's a bad thing. Valid enough. You're right. You're right. From your perspective, that's right. Your job is to scan everything and keep on top of everything and save me that way. Thank you. Good job. Now I'm going to ask you a question about this. You are just making yourself feel better business. Ask it if that's really true. Now, when I say it, I don't mean the mind. I mean the full aspect of you. Ask consciousness, is this true? Am I just making myself feel better?
so what arises for me there, 1 year ago, I was walking the Camino at this time, exactly a year ago. And one of the conversations that I was having with myself as I was walking had to do with whether I have, so it started out, I won't give all the details, but the crux of the conversation was a switch from this person has never forgiven me for being happy to I have never forgiven me for being happy. And I think I had that realization, but I didn't know what to do with it. Like I still don't really, I guess, know I don't know how to work with that.
So the right brain consciousness is throwing the Camino as a response to that question, right? Is the mind right? Is the mind's perspective the only thing? It's flashing you the Camino, and it's flashing you that moment. And the mind can't figure out what that means, but this is wisdom from the right brain. So let's just meet it and say, yes, yes, yes. Thank you. You're welcome here. And ask for further clarity. How come that? What's that mean? Help me to interpret. It's bringing it up now for a reason. There's something that's parallel. And if anybody doesn't know, the Camino is a trail. And it's a spiritual pilgrimage. And it takes a nice long time, so everybody settles into their right brain while they do it.
So there's something in there about it has to be hard to be worth doing. Like if something is easy, then it's not good enough for my time or for me to claim that.
That's the mind, right? That's not, is that Camino Trail saying that, or it's pointing out your conditioning?
I think that's a conditioning.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Yeah, so that's the mind, and that's what you started to see was your conditioning. and your usual habits and way of being. When you're out in the Camino, that's what happens. You have a lot of time and space, and it's like a meditation, right? And so with meditation, you see yourself. So you were able to see your tendency to think that everything has to be hard. So let's take a bow to that. Thank you, Camino, for making the association and connection to everything has to be hard. The mind, or, you know, thinks that everything has to be hard, anything worth doing. And Camino is saying that's not really true, but that's your tendency. Now see what happens if Camino has anything else. And let's just say a no, 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 no. Oh, you're right. That's one way to live life, but it doesn't mean it's a rule. One can get through life thinking it has to be hard and grueling it out that way, but the Camino, this other side of you, is actually, you know, calling it out, saying, you might want to take a look at this. It's kind of going, doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Here's another question for this has to be hard stuff. Is that necessary in this situation with what you're going through? Is it necessary that it has to be hard? Just see what comes back. Is it necessary? Might have been lots of different times in your life, or if you believe in parallel lives or past lives, that stuff, right? Probably plenty of times your soul has encountered hardness. Does it have to be hard now? Is that true? Is that a necessity?
No, it's supposed to, I mean, it's not supposed to be easy, but it's supposed to be simple.
Aha. Okay. There's what it's saying. The wisdom from Camino is saying simplicity, simple. So just, hello, simple. You are welcome here. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. At the end of the walk, I had written a new credo for myself, and it was only 2 words. It was live well.
Ooh, goosebumps. Okay. Hello, credo. Hello, live well. Don't live hard, live well. Simple.
Yeah. And I think there's a conflation, and this may be my mind again, between hard and complicated.
Mm-hmm. So just do the same thing with that. Is that necessary? Is it necessary for it to be complicated? It's switched from hard to complicated. And you've got a polarity here of simple and complicated. You like polarity squares, so that's going to be one for you to work homework-wise. Yeah. But just ask the question, just like you asked, does it have to be hard? Does it have to be complicated? Probably lots of times in your past, it's been complicated. Lots of times in previous experience, lifetimes, whatever you want to call them, complication. Is it necessary in this case?
Yeah, I'm not sure complicated is the right word, because that's not landing well for me.
Mm-hmm. So that's a no. It's kind of going, no, complicated. Mm-mm.
It's more like, so for example, in live well, to me, that means eat tasty food. And I make a lot of my own food. I make my own bread. I make I don't eat out. I buy whole foods and I eat, prepare them. Mm-hmm. So that process takes time. It takes, effort. So it's it's simple, but it's not
hard. It's not
hard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The feeling state of it, right? There's not tension around it. It might be doing things, but it's the feeling of how you do them. Just so it's flashing to you, do this like you do your tasty food. Do it with the same energetic, have the same relationship, right? So what you're going through with this job shift and change and this time, this liminal time, you can do it like you do your tasty food. Doesn't mean there's not effort involved or steps involved or prep, or maybe it's a little combining of things, but it's all in the relationship and this energetic of how you do it. It is reminding you your touchstone is how you do food.
Yeah. And time, bread has to rise.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So time and effort, new relationship to time and effort, doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be complicated. it can be like it is with your food. It does require time and effort, but it's got a certain feel to it. It's reminding you about that feel. And there's an invitation to, you know, your inquiry is to play with that, right? So let's just, let's invite that. Right now it might be just there in the tasty food. Let's invite it to see if it wants to expand. Would it like to expand? Would it like to root? Would it like to rise? You know, it's kind of been occupying a little more contracted place. So just see if there's an invitation for it to expand. It might have forgotten. It only thinks it needs to abide, you know, in tasty food in your life. Just see if it's okay, if it would like to expand or root down, some sort of movement there. If so, it'll know. It's intelligent. It'll know what it wants to do. It might just have forgotten that it doesn't have to stay forever in that contracted place. It can actually expand.
Yeah, the image that I get is like, I guess it'd be flower petals, you know, like they don't all open at the same time. They kind of.
Oh, that's cool. They all have their pace and their timing.
And there's an order to it. It's not random, but it's right.
Ah, order, right.
Timing, yeah.
Timing, yep, excellent. So just like petals unfolding.
Which sits really well with that liminal space of waiting. Right timing.
Beautiful. So bow to that. Yes, yes, yes. I think we'll stop there. That's a nice place to stop. It gives you a complete reframe on, you know, if we look back on where you started with the rib cage, right? Now it's given you live well and the petals unfolding and right order and timing and liminal space, right? The larger consciousness of you is really communicated beautifully as a larger expansion to what the mind typically habitually does, right? And it has to be hard, right? We're not making that wrong, just appreciating it. It's an old coping mechanism. It's an old way of being. It got you through a lot. However, it's not a necessity to go through this way, right? Now there's an opportunity. This is growth. This is Camino. This is spiritual, to live well, to really bring that credo out, right? To continue with the work done at the Camino, with living well and the adage of your relationship to it being about petals unfolding and right timing and order and liminal and trusting that intelligence. Great. Deep bow to the sage within and that consciousness that showed up for you and for all of us, and just the beauty of the right brain, because it communicates in different ways, right? Through symbols and imagery and feelings. And the mind does its things with words and logical and doings. Right brain is beings and feelings. So this balance has shown up here. And this is occupying more space. It's arising like a flower and unfolding. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, any closing comments? Just tap that through.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm gonna have to have some more mind moments, because it feels good. That feels good.
Well, mind, see, so the right brain, these are just ways of languaging this. So right brain, the feminine side, consciousness is feeling, and it feels good. Now brain has popped up because brain doesn't value feeling, right? Because it's saying you're just making yourself feel better. So I'm going to give you homework. You're a visual coach, so you know these things. First off, do a polarity square on simple and complex. Or the hard versus the, what's the flip of hard? easy, I guess, huh? Or something close. You can get out a thesaurus and find it, but it's pointing you to several polarities. So I do a polarity square. Also, flip it good. Let the mind rip and get out all its yeah buts down on a flip it and do the counter. And remember, when you're doing the countering, it's not just mind, let body, right? Let consciousness, let what you've been interacting with. Camino is a great way. Let the Camino consciousness counter it. And it'll help to continue to balance it. Also, do think and feel. That's another polarity here, right? Because you're overly developed in the head and the think, and it values that. And so teasing out more of the unconscious stuff around the desire for feel will be interesting. And those things that I'm rattling off for Wendi to do, you can find both of those are actually on the process pop-up page, the flip it good map and the polarity square. And I've done several polarity squares in the process pop-ups previously. So you can go to the YouTube channel if you're interested in polarities. Polarities are great. And maybe with Wendi finding her polarities, you've found some in your own. The ones she's poked up against, those are good polarities for all of us to work with, in particular with what's going on in 2020. But as you are out and about and you start getting more conscious about the polarities that are at pull in your own world and system, that's a great tool. And you'll see in the work I've done there, a great reference book is Leslie Temple Thurston's The Marriage of Spirit. That's where the polarity square work comes from. Okay, let's stop there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and anybody who wants to say anything to Wendi or anything about the work at large and how it impacts you?
Hi, Wendi. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the processing of this transition time for you. And I was kind of parallel processing my own transition into retirement and trying to figure out what's my identity now, you know, what am I supposed to be doing to help the world at this stage of my life and where we are. So I appreciated also the metaphor of the Camino. I haven't done the Camino, but I've done vision quests and other spiritual practices. So that was helpful to like go back to that time, you know, and remember what I learned from those experiences. So thank you for that opportunity for the parallel processing.
Cool. Anybody else? I am going to go over, if Lisa's okay to go over. I do want to spend some time on the 18-year-old and the carjacking situation.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So anybody else who wants to comment on the work to date? And before I do that, because we may lose some folks, so I'm going to flash a couple things as well. Okay, because I won't, obviously there were good things on the table. Chow, I'm thinking of you too. It would be fun to work with you with the managing these ideas. You've got an abundance happening, but the abundance is kind of duking itself out inside of you. So come back for another process pop-up in the future. The other thing you can do, and this goes for anybody, I think I'm sharing the screen here, just other places for visual coaching. So come again for these process pop-ups, they're free. And I run them every couple of weeks. So you guys are all on the list. You'll get the notification of when the next one is. So there might be an opportunity, a future date to work with you. The other thing is, in addition to the free process pop-ups, I'm doing the free recorded sessions. So what people have brought forward agenda item wise, Cara, you may have already left too, but the laying the people off and that guilt and responsibility, and also the preciousness of what you brought forward about the kids. that would be really wonderful stuff to do with one of these free recorded sessions too, or come by a process pop-up again in the future. Of course, I also have paid if you want to do them private, and they're 30% off of what my regular rates are. I've put down my rates right now in 2020. Other places for processing, there is, just like this, we're doing public processing. There are 2 new private places, private smaller groups that I've created called the Shifted Satsang. And they're right around the corner, and they're going to be 6 months. They're running from October through to April. And there's 2 cohorts. One is Tuesdays, it's 4:30 to 6 Pacific time. And then Saturdays, it's 10 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific. So there's kind of 2 options. So I have them at different times of the day, and different days. Hopefully it'll accommodate people. They're both about half sold out. So, and it's kind of neck and neck in terms of how many spots are in each. I'm keeping them to 10 people only. So we have plenty of time to know each other over those 24 sessions. And lots of work is going to happen in those containers. The recordings for those are private, so they're just shared with the group as opposed to what's happening in this group where it's shared publicly. Anybody who's interested in my techniques and my 40+ tools, the way I work with that, I post stuff up on the site. The goodwill system there is that you just use that stuff for yourself. It's to help you with your processing as an individual as we're going through all the swirl of what 2020 is all about. If you are interested, if you're a coach or a therapist or a counselor or somebody else who works with individuals or wants to be, and those tools are going to be of use in my techniques, I train people on it. And I do that through the visual coach certification, which gives you access to those 40+ tools. You've just missed the deadline for the 2021. We've got a full group, and there's 2 prerequisites. One is knowing how to work with visual skills already. My program for that is the fundamentals of working visually. So that's a prerequisite, or something equivalent if you're already trained in working visually. The other prerequisite is going through my Shifted system. And you can find out more information on the site. You'll see my visual coaching under courses. And the next cohort, I think, is going to be in about 6 months in April 2020. So if you don't have these 2 cohorts and you're interested in that, or sorry, those prerequisites, you've got 6 months to get those prerequisites done. And this is a good place to keep coming. If you're interested in this stuff, come for the process pop-up, check out the YouTube channel, because that's going to give you, the state of the art of what I'm doing, like this inquiry work we just did. I also have 5, soon to be 8 home study kits. And the home study kits are online courses, basically, that are self-paced, right? I've done a lot of live online courses over the years, and I've created home study kits out of them. So just know I've got a whole whack of home study stuff if you're interested in visual skills. The fundamentals is a home study kit. We've got business essentials for process professionals, a couple of things for fast and loose sketching, and also my Shifted system and practical energy work. So there's a lot, the essence of my work is all available via home study kits. People are interested on the process side of things. Okay, so thanks for allowing me to do the pitch there. So you get a sense of more steps with me, whether they're free or paid ones. With that,